Happy Monday, everybody, and it's a wonderful Monday. If you're in Northern Ireland, as a fan of Rory McIlroy, Rory, you know, Matthew, you watched it like I did,
Hmm.
and he went, you know, he was number one all the way through. But boy, yesterday it was shaky before he got back on track.
Yeah, and it almost felt like it started to show shades of what that final round was last year. The only difference was is that we did learn that the green jacket bought Roy McIlroy some mental like fortitude,
Hmm.
right? And some understanding of hey, I've done this before. He wasn't going out there trying to win his first. It's a broken record, but a record that should be broken when you're talking about his performance in this place, and specifically in that kind of pressure situation.
Sure.
It's something that he hasn't dealt well with in the past, and
Hmm.
obviously did exceedingly well yesterday in terms of
Hmm.
really being able to right the ship. Because you go back and you look, and he lost that, and on that really what is there's two stretches of holes on this golf course that you like, these are going to be the hard holes, and like these
Hmm.
are the holes that can bite you, and that's 4, 5, 6, and then amen corner,
Right.
right? And or 10, 11, 12, which contains
Hmm.
two-thirds of amen corner. um and he didn't he played the 4, 5, 6 holes in three over par. Like that's not going to get it done. But then
Hmm.
you go back and a hole two holes that were set up as scoring opportunities on Sunday, 7 and 8, he birdied both of them. And then really the biggest turning point in the golf tournament for Rory was on 12 when he made that birdie.
Hmm. It was pretty amazing. I'll tell you what. Um, a performance Scottie Scheffler put on was pretty outstanding as well. He had a couple opportunities yesterday to get where he needed to be to, if nothing else, come out of there with a playoff with Rory.
Yeah, and it's one where Scotty's probably going to be kicking himself. I mean, I just don't think there's any other way to stack it up because bogey free over his final two rounds. First
Mm-hmm.
player to do that. I don't remember what the stat was. Maybe since actually first player to go bogey free across the weekend at the Masters since they started recording stats, and then before that,
42.
yeah, we don't know. Like there's just
Mm-hmm.
no way of knowing. Um,
Yeah, it went back to
Possibly,
42 is as far back as they went.
yeah, yeah. So possibly the only player to ever play the
Mhm.
weekend bogey free. It
His
really
last
impressive.
bogey, by the way, was on 15 on Friday.
Yeah, and that's where he lost the golf tournament. They
Hmm.
talked about it last night. After things had wrapped up, one of the
Hmm.
stats you hear is well, Rory played 13 and 15, those two big par fives on the back nine. Throughout the week, he played them at 5 under par. Scottie Scheffler played him at one over par. Like that's your difference in the golf tournament. And you go back, and really, I think like everybody's going to when they point to like what if, right?
Right.
And they're going to talk about that punt on 17. I'm more thinking along the lines of what if on 13 Hao Tong Lee didn't take a year and a half and a small
Mhm.
expedition across the hilly terrain of Augusta, Georgia, to find his golf ball on 13? What if that didn't happen?
Mhm.
It keeps you in the rhythm. Go back to the Valspar, talk to Matt Fitzpatrick about
Mhm.
that delay, and he mentioned how much it can bother people getting out of your pace of play like that.
Right.
But he had a birdie opportunity on 13. You go with 14, he went left off the tee.
Mhm.
That was another really scoreable hole yesterday. That's another opportunity that he missed. So the missed opportunities on holes that are normally scoreable.
Mhm.
I think he's going to be kicking himself. Obviously, you look at it, even par through the first 2 days is not where he wanted to be in terms of contention. I think it does show how good of a golfer he still is, but I'm
Mhm.
very curious on like what is going on in the head or the thought process of Scottie Scheffler headed into the rest of this major season, because now he won two majors last year, and that
Mhm.
matters. That's obviously significant,
Mhm.
but there is almost this sense of like Rory's back,
Mhm.
like to the form of his younger self at this point.
Mhm.
And the Rory being back conversation to that stance now is a threat to Scotty, who's been pretty much comfortably number one here
Mhm.
for the past three, four, 3 or 4
Years.
years. without really a challenge. Is that challenge coming back in the form of Rory McIlroy? And also something that didn't happen, I wish did happen, and hopefully will happen at one of the majors going forward this year, is we haven't really had Scottie and Rory squaring off when they were both at their best against each other in a
Right.
major, and really I would want to see Scottie versus Rory on Sunday at Shinnecock. Like that's something that you would want to see,
Mhm.
right? And same with the PGA. Like this is something that you want to see, something that hasn't really happened in terms of these two guys being at their best, and that's part of the reason I was hoping for a playoff yesterday.
It's funny. You were talking just a minute ago about you know, pace of play and all that. And they talked to Rory yesterday, and they said,
Mhm,
um, there was a shot by Cameron Young that went errant,
mhm,
and Scotty had to. I'm sorry, Rory had to stay there for a couple of minutes while he was getting ready to make the shot. And they said, well, "What did you do?" And he goes, "Well, I didn't want to stand up there and just uh, bide my time because he said that would have been crazy." So he said, I
mhm,
went back. I'm talking to the caddy, and he and the caddy were just busting on each other. And he says, to be honest, we were just talking about anything but golf. He said we were just chatting back there. He goes, and the time went a whole lot faster. He goes, 3 or 4 years ago, I would have stood up there on the tee, waiting and getting into my head.
mhm.
So he said, there's a couple lessons he learned. The other one, when he hit the ball errantly on 18, right? And they didn't really know where it was as he's walking down to find it. Someone asked him, well, what you guys were, smiling walking down, basically into the woods, right? What were you talking about? And he said, um, Rory says to the caddy, well, where do you think it is? He goes, well, let's just put it this way. He goes, it's in a bad spot, but what's the worst you could do? Hit a tree and a scoreboard and knock Scottie Scheffler's name off the scoreboard? And so, I mean, they were just busting on each other.
Mhm.
And that was not something, oh, hell, even a year ago, you would have heard Rory doing.
Yeah, and you could even see in some of those shots and trying to read his lips there on
Mhm.
18 as he's standing off the right. Like
Right.
he almost takes a moment right before he really kind of gets over the ball and figures out that he's first to play.
Right.
Um, Basically, where you see him talking to himself, he's kind of like, "Man, you don't make this easy on yourself." Like he's just sitting there laughing. He's like it's not it's not the major wins of his younger
Right.
days winning by 8 shots, right?
Sure.
Um, but yeah, I also think it's interesting that when you look at these last two years and the
Mhm.
defining moments of Rory's wins, like
Mhm.
you look at, I think I go back. Obviously, he had to win the playoff last year against Justin
Right.
Rose, but I feel like there's a definitive break and a definitive like turn point for Rory in both of these
Mhm.
last two wins. Obviously, last year you had the shot on 11 that
Mhm.
really looked like it was going to roll into the water that ended
Mhm.
up staying up. That was obviously your definitive break. And then you have the
Right.
shot on 15, right?
Right.
Last year that's the one that has been replayed over and over and
Right.
throughout the history of this tournament is going to be played over and over continuously, right? Same thing goes here. Like it feels pretty definitive. Like on 18 to have that thing go far enough right and to
Mhm.
have that window, that's a break. Because if he's in it unplayable or he's in a spot where he can't get it up near the green, he is very much in double bogey territory, which sends
Mhm.
you to that playoff with Scottie Scheffler. Um, and in terms of the shot that like really defined his tournament and kind of let him take a stranglehold on the tournament
Mhm.
was the shot on 12. Like it was clear. Like Cameron Young had to start making birdies after that, and you could feel that in his putting. Like he was
Mhm.
pushing the issue down those final holes and holes that are normally scoreable, like 13, 14, 15, 16. All
Mhm.
4 of them played under par for that tournament, or not for the tournament, but for Sunday. Like, they were all playing under par. They were the 4 of the easiest holes on the golf course.
Mhm.
And it was a stretch really where when you watch Scottie miss that putt on 17, you knew that he wasn't going to push it to 12. And you
Mhm.
see Rory like standing there. I think he was on at that point, he was on 14,
Mhm.
probably. And you're like, there's like it just felt impossible for him to lose that tournament with 15 playing as easy as it was. And by the way, another really good break for Rory there in the sense that that wedge he hit on 15 for his third
Mhm.
shot, the fact that that didn't have spin is nothing short of a miracle. Because if it has an ounce of spin on it, it's in the
Going
water.
to drink water, right?
Yeah, it's rolling back, and we're in a completely different scenario.
It literally stuck. I mean, it didn't move forward. It didn't move backwards. It's just like it planted itself right in the grass.
Yeah, and then you go to 16, and I saw somebody mention this, and I am kind of on this side. That pin location on 16 for Sunday of
Mhm.
this golf tournament, like the Masters, it's
Right.
Augusta National. That feels like such a gimme pin location
Mhm.
because everything feeds to it. Like, I mean, you've got guys that are at the front of the green. I mean, Sam Burns made a 60-foot putt for birdie. Fantastic putt. But like,
Mhm.
even if Sam Burns hadn't made the putt, you
Right.
knew it was going to finish next to the hole and it was going to be a tap in. Like, it was such an easy pin location
Mhm.
to get up and down to. Like, it felt impossible to make bogey on that hole. So there's that as well. I not a fan. I there was some issue I took with course setup at times, but
Right.
I mean, you heard the players talk about that.
Right.
But yeah, a little too easy. But in that closing stretch, you knew that Rory's bogeys would have had to have come on 17 and 18,
Mhm.
given how easy that stretch of 13, 14, 15, 16 was yesterday.
Yeah. Um, Couple of quick things. One, you were talking about Scotty. He had just, I guess, come out of the media room when Rory was on his way, and they saw each other in the hall, and they asked him, well, "Did you and Scotty?" He said Scotty came to me, shook my hand, patted me on the back, and said, "Well, way to go." And he said, and I leaned over to Scotty, and I said, "Thanks for not playing on Thursday." And he said they both laughed and had a good joke, had a good laugh at it.
Mhm.
Um, you mentioned yes, just a minute ago about how you know um, Justin Rhodes and Terrell Hutton and Cameron Young and Russell Healy played so well. Um,
Mhm.
you got to think that Cameron Young's going to get himself a breakthrough there, and also Sam.
Yeah, Cameron Young played really well.
Mhm.
Again, he won the Players. Some people on the PGA Tour like to call that the fifth major. It definitely
Mhm.
is one of the stronger fields in golf
Mhm.
that they put together every year. Really, and a tough golf course as well. But it translated to Augusta, right? Like
Mhm.
he played that well. I think the disappointing things and really Scotty kind of did, kind of didn't. No one was able to get it going really when Rory let that thing get within arm's reach. Like Justin Rose had a
Mhm.
two-shot lead there for a short spell, but
Mhm.
he bogeyed 17, effectively taking himself out of the tournament. Like you go back if he makes par on 17, goes and birdies 18, then him and Rory are in a playoff again. All of this is revisionist history, but you think of that stretch that Cam Young went on, and I'm going to pull up their scorecards because talked about Scotty and the missed opportunities. He went par on from 4 through 14. It was just pars like that. He made 2 birdies in the first 3, and then he obviously birdied 15, 16 to end his round. But even that wasn't out there for some of these guys. Tyrrell Hatton, you can't fault the man. He shot 6 under. Like he wasn't supposed to be
No.
involved in this tournament at all. Um, but Cam Young and Justin Rose, the two that you look at and you go, like the opportunities were there. Russell Henley, the opportunities were there. You guys like they played well enough to be there, and you didn't have to be, you had to be 2 shots better, and you had all those opportunities. Russell Henley shot 4 under on his front 9. bogey 12, birdie 13, but outside of the birdie on 8, it was all pars from there on out. Couldn't get it going. Justin Rose, he birdied number 9, walking to 10 with the lead, might I add. Makes par on 10. Amen Corner, we talked about 2/3 of Amen Corner and how they were some of the toughest holes on the golf course. Bogey on 11, bogey on 12. He could never get it back after really 12 was a tough hole for him. You look at that chunk chip shot, the long shot off the tee. He got out there. He had guys blowing it off. I wonder if that wasn't something just to try to like reset himself, and it didn't work. But he wasn't able to get it going again. And then once he did make birdie on 15, he had an opportunity on 16, another scoreable hole. He made 3 there, and then he backed it up with a bogey. He just could not get things back in rhythm and in sync. And then Cameron Young, again, bit of a spotty front 9, 2 birdies, 3 bogeys, leave there and 1 over, and then you just par out. You go 9 pars in a row. And again, you don't make a birdie on any 4 of that scoring stretch there on the back 9 when you really needed to. So it was so close to just being like a perfect Sunday, but none of the guys in contention could go up and challenge Rory McIlroy at any point in time. Like this had to be a situation where he walked through that back 9 feeling after 12, he had to feel fantastic looking at the leaderboard and just seeing where these other guys were, seeing that Scottie didn't make birdie on 13. That was big. Seeing that he didn't make birdie on 14, that's big as well. And even when the pressure of Scottie making 2, like Scottie made 2, but guess what? He was sitting at 12 under anyways, already, and he pushed it to 13. So it didn't play. There was not enough pressure from the guys chasing to really give him all that much outside pressure, other than the stuff that he created for himself on the front 9.
Right, which was a total mess. One of the things that I was impressed with that had nothing to do with golf yesterday was 2 things. One, that the Masters allowed CBS to use drones, and second, that they used them so well. I thought that some of the best shots, the crowd shots, the sweeping shots around the green and down the fairway, that was using the drones perfectly. Not sometimes when you're directing or producing a telecast and you have a ton of toys to play with, you tend to want to use them as much as possible. But Lance Barrow and the crew at CBS yesterday, I was impressed with. They had them, they used them, but they didn't overuse them.
Yeah, I would say a little less than thrilled with the overall production from CBS. It wasn't bad. I just think they had some missteps. Like there were times where, you can follow along and you have the Masters app, and there are times throughout that front 9 where I know they were trying to paint a story, and that's good. But I can see Scottie Scheffler's scores were posted like on the app, and I know that he's now pushed and made a birdie. He's at 9 under now, but I didn't find that out for another 3 minutes on the telecast. That's how behind they were at times. That was a little frustrating. Not finding the balls on 18 for a little while was a little bit frustrating as well. But it wasn't a bad production. Not sitting here. It just feels with the level that CBS has made us accustomed to in this tournament, in this event, it didn't live up to their expectations. I think that they've really set through their prior years of coverage.
Yeah, I think that couple things. That's a problem, and that is we now have what's called latency. Okay, so what you get on your app can take a while because you're watching a golf tournament that if you're standing right there, okay, like you were at the Valspar, for instance, and you were looking at the monitor, you would see something happen at least a minute, maybe 2 minutes before you saw it on screen. And that's because of the transmission and because of the fiber optics and all the other stuff. I'm making excuses. I'm simply saying there is a bit of a lag time between what is real when you're there and what isn't real from the standpoint of you seeing it later. So yeah, I did. There was you brought up one point that that was driving me nuts, and is I'm not, I don't want to throw camera people under the bus, but I when Rory hit that shot on 18, I had no idea where the ball went
Yeah. Yeah. And
because he kept showing the green. I'm going, he didn't hit the green.
yeah, like there was no chance that he hit the green.
No,
Now granted, he was in the green side bunker. I guess that's the only credit that you can give there. And again, like there's just little stuff like bad. There was a bad tracer on Justin Rose's shot on 13.
mm-hmm.
By the way, missed opportunity there for him. He had an eagle
Right.
putt, made par. Um, but that looked like when that thing came off and they showed you the tracer, you're like, oh, this is in the tributary to Rays Creek. Like
Right.
this thing's wet. There's not a chance in the world. This thing
Right.
is going so far right of
Right.
where it needs to be. And then it lands, boop, pin high, bounces past, and you're
Yeah.
like, what the
Where did that come
like,
from?
yeah, what was that? And then I did read a tweet because I was sitting there thinking, I was like, man, Scottie's been on 13. That's a scoreable hole. He just must not be like he must have bogeyed it or
Right.
something is happening like on 13. But even if he did bogey, they would show us because he's in the hunt.
Sure.
Like it felt like there was 20 minutes where nobody was like, hey, this is what's going on 13. And then finally they just cut back and Hao Tong Lee's standing up there in the brush. And you hear, and something pops out on the green.
Yeah.
So you didn't know what was going on there. That's fine. I feel like an update, but somebody did put out a tweet and was like, "Did Scottie Scheffler just withdraw on 13? Like, what's going on?"
He decided this was it.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah, just some missteps, I would say, in the overall coverage and production of it. But
Mm-hmm.
it was all in all, you know, another great edition of this tournament. It just
Right.
feels like it was missing a little bit of that back nine flair. And part of the reason it was missing that back nine flair was because of it was a couple things. One, how solid Rory was playing,
Mm-hmm.
and two, nobody was coming and taking it from him. Like it
Right.
wasn't like he was just out there, shooting the lights out on the back
Mm-hmm.
nine. Like he made par on 15. He made par on 14, I believe. Or no, he made birdie on 14, didn't he?
Mm-hmm. He
No, he
did.
made par on 14.
Yeah.
Um,
I was just gonna
so,
say that the thing that I would be cool with, which you had mentioned earlier, I think it's so much more fun when you've got these battles, right? Where
mhm,
it's Rory versus Scottie, that type of thing. I
yeah,
mean, in the old days, back in the Tiger time, um, Sunday was not you knew that if you stepped on that course, you're gonna have to beat Tiger because he wasn't gonna beat himself.
yeah,
There were those rare occasions when he screwed up, but very seldom did he. So, if you're paired with him, or if you're, in the group behind him, or whatever, there was all kinds of pressing. Uh, I don't get that feeling, especially how Rory played yesterday. That if you are going to run up and take the mantle away, there was ample opportunities, which you've mentioned, for anybody in that final five to walk up and take it, but they couldn't.
yeah. I mean, Justin Rose had the opportunity. Cameron Young had the opportunity. Obviously, Scottie had the opportunity, and they just like they couldn't. And it got to a point again after those two birdies on 12 and 13 where you're looking at this stretch of holes and you're going, all right, 14, 15, 16. Like if he makes bogey on those holes, like
Mm-hmm.
something has gone horribly, horribly wrong.
Right.
Like last year, you think about the double on 11, and
Mm-hmm.
that's something that just kind of plays in or the lack or the double on 13, that's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something where like it almost feels understandable, like the pressure, but the pressure was clearly not there for him. So there wasn't you didn't feel like that shot was necessarily coming for him.
Mm-hmm.
You watch it go right on 18, you're like, okay, maybe. But then again, like he still has the ability to recover from that window. It just did not feel like he was going to get to a place where he was back at even par or over par for his round. And it mainly was because you didn't feel like there was any existential pressure on him. Like there's no pressure from his playing partner in Cam Young. There's no pressure of winning the Grand Slam. There's no pressure of winning your first green jacket. All of that Rory has done, and it's now at a place that he is not only is he extremely familiar with it, but he's extremely comfortable there as well.
Yeah, I think that that's part of the importance and the allure of it is that once you get there and once you've conquered it, it's not that you don't respect it anymore. It's you don't fear it anymore. And I think that's one of the things that is beneficial for Rory now. Um, I can guarantee you, as he said when he was talking about, he and the caddy walking down and the caddy saying, he asked him what he thought, and he said, well, what's the worst thing you do? Hit a tree or hit the scoreboard, right? So the fact that that there's levity there, the fact that he can relax a little bit, the fact that he's not constantly in his own head, is a maturity thing, which is great for him. And as a fan of how Rory plays and a fan of wanting to see good golf played, I'm happy to see he's settling into that.
Yeah, and it's something now where the big discussion was, Rory's freed up now. Like that's what people were talking about after he won at Augusta last year, and talking about, would he go on and win, how many majors would he win, this, that, and the other. And as much as that freed him up, like you didn't get the feeling that Rory had been freed up really until yet, like this week. Like this week feels like you got the version of Rory that you were expecting to get after he won at Augusta last year. Like this feels like the version now that you're going to get moving forward. That is that presence and is that guy, like come Sunday, you don't want to see. And really it gives the PGA Tour a fantastic opportunity as long as Scottie Scheffler can continue to do what he's doing, because now you have like it. I've talked about it before, rivalries born out of hatred and rivalries born out of success. That would be a rivalry born out of success. The success of Scottie Scheffler and the success of Rory McIlroy would give them this edge of like, I want to beat that guy because he's who people think the best in the world are. Or I want to beat that guy because, he's beaten me at Augusta now twice in a row. Like that's now happened 2 times. I was the one that showing up at Augusta, like this was supposed to be my place. Like even when, even when I'm not winning, I'm still finishing at the top, as Scottie Scheffler has done. But yet, now Rory's the one that's got it done the same amount of times. Oh, by the way, he now like has you in majors by a much wider margin as well. Like Rory has 6 now, you have 4. And I get that you're younger, but it's something where I think Scottie Scheffler's competitiveness, and people pointed out and said it was, arrogance or snarky or this, that, and the other in some interviews that Scottie did throughout the weekend. And I just think that it's been so long since you've seen Scottie Scheffler, like how competitive he is because of how good a job Ted Scott has done, that you tend to forget like just how intense of a competitor that Scottie Scheffler is. And so it's something now where that's going to linger under the surface for those guys, not out of like I hate this guy, but like I need to beat this guy now.
So, all right, well, let's a couple of things we want to get to before we end the show today, but any final thoughts on the Masters?
Yeah, I was, and it's not something where I think we're probably going to see. If I had to guess, we probably won't see him tee it up again until Aronimink, and that's Colin Morikawa, and just how well he played. I mean, you watched him work his way through on Sunday as he made a run of, I think he made like 4 straight across that stretch that I was talking about earlier, where he's like barely able to bend over and pick the ball up out of the hole. That's how rough his back still is. And he went out there and he was T7. He shot 4 under on Sunday and was 9 under for the tournament. Like that was really impressive. I think that almost gives me like a what if, Colin Morikawa had been healthy. What if he's been healthy this entire season? Because you're seeing, or we've seen, a much better version of Colin Morikawa than we have these past couple of years. It feels like a much more complete version of himself this season. I would like to see him healthy, because if he can play that well while his back's hurt, I would, having won already this year when he was healthy at Pebble Beach and AT&T, that's impressive. Jake Knapp, I think he's a guy who's played fantastic this year. I think he had 6 top 11s coming into this week. Fittingly enough, finished number 11 this week, shot 7 under par, played really well. Jordan Spieth ended his round really well. That's a guy that's going for a career Grand Slam at Aronimink, in a month. And that's something to monitor and watch, because he's played better, but his better play, comes on the backs of, like, the reason he got into the Masters this year was because he's a former champion. He met none other of their criteria.
No other requirement.
Yeah, so it's something where his play has not been up to par these last couple of years, and it shows based on his eligibility at Augusta and why he was eligible. And that goes for other majors as well. Obviously, he won the U.S. Open, he won the Open, and they have their own exemptions into the tournament. Geez, don't know why I struggled through that. But it's something where if he can play well there, you would like to see that carry over. But then again, the final note is I almost find it impressive how poorly Rory McIlroy played through those first 2 days to have shot the scores that he shot. Like, he could not hit a fairway. He was 50% on fairways hit throughout the first 3 days of the tournament, and he was tied for the lead. There was he was horrible for some of those days, but his short game and his ability to get it out of the tight places, and really when he was in position, he took advantage of the positions that he was. So I was just so telling, because that's such a tough golf course, and it is something where if you're playing at the local country club of a PGA Tour event, it's hard enough to put it on your short game for a couple of days until you hope the driver comes around. Rory did it at Augusta for 3 days, hoping for that driver to come around, and then it finally did on Sunday, and you saw some better driving of the golf ball, obviously, until 18 out of him. And really, it was enough to get it done. Leaning on that short game, how improved that short game is, because everybody talks about Rory and his power, and what he brings to the game, and how he's able to outdrive these people and all the speed that he gets. And it just, it wasn't the highlight of this week for Rory. The highlight was putting and his chipping and all of the work that he did around the greens. And I get it. It's something that people have used to discredit, because there's people that don't like Rory McIlroy because of, some of the antics that you saw when he was younger. This, especially after this second one, it feels like you have this sense now where a lot of that stuff is behind Rory. It seems like he's at peace, he's fulfilled, and you get a guy now that's going to go out there and he's going to chase numbers in terms of how many majors he can get throughout the rest of his career. But just an incredible week, with all the pressure that he put on his short game, and being able to come out and win in what was a really, a 12 under par. And I get he shot 65, but he had to grind a lot this week.
And that's what I mean. Guys like that are the guys that win. Even we've mentioned it many times. Even Scheffler is a grinder. It's one of the reasons he's capable of not necessarily having his best day, but still ending up having a good day.
Yeah,
so 100%. All right, let's. The NBA season, ended yesterday. The play-in games will start this week, and at the Capital One Arena in Washington yesterday, we saw Alexander Ovechkin and Sidney Crosby face each other for the 100th time. 21 seasons Alex and Sid have been in the NHL together. And, for hockey, you can, in basketball, you look to 1979 when Magic and Larry Bird entered the NBA as kind of the turning point where people started to pay attention to the NBA. I mean, back in '79, there were CBS, which had the contract for the playoffs, didn't start some of the playoff games till after the 11 o'clock news. So they tape delayed some of the playoffs. So that's how important it was to CBS in '79. But Magic and Larry created a buzz between LA and Boston, and two of the more storied franchises. And then came Michael, and then the rest is history. But in hockey, it's been Alex and Sid. It's hard to believe that that they've been in the league 21 years. I mean, to be honest, it's really hard to believe that. The other thing is, both Ovechkin and Crosby, in cities where baseball and football normally are the king, in Pittsburgh, maybe next to Ben Roethlisberger, but now longer than Roethlisberger, Sidney Crosby has been the guy. I mean, that's everybody in Pittsburgh loves Sidney Crosby.
Yeah.
In Washington, where football used to be king and now starting to work its way back under new ownership, and other things going on, a Russian winger from Moscow is the number one guy in town. I mean, everybody loves Ovi. He's the number one guy. And so yesterday, Ovi on a road trip earlier this week, I believe was it Montreal? It might have been Montreal. Anyway, he was asked by a reporter, when is this it? Is the season it? And, he said, I don't know. He said, I'm going to have to think about it. So, they had a back-to-back with Pittsburgh this week on Saturday and Sunday. They won both games. Anyway, yesterday, after the game ended, the entire Pittsburgh Penguins team stood on the ice waiting to give Ovi the handshake and say goodbye. It's been fun, all that sort of routine. But Ovi laughed and he just kind of waved them off. Just like they gave him the microphone. He says, "Guys, I haven't decided yet. Okay, let's don't get ahead of it. I appreciate what you're doing.
Calm down.
Yeah, I'm appreciating the fact that you want to do this, but not yet." So Alex is there. Sid is there. Interesting playoff run here, all the way down to the last day. The Washington's win yesterday. If they win out and they have one more game on Tuesday against Carolina, if they can, it's Carolina. If they can beat Carolina and Philly loses one game, then they can slide into the third spot into the playoffs. If they don't, they don't qualify for a wild card, so they bounce all the way out of the playoffs. So it's and Sid and the boys are in second place. So that I'm hoping that Ovi can get into the playoffs for one last time, so we have one last run at the cup between Ovechkin and Sidney Crosby. But sometimes you have to shout out for people who played and carried the league, and those guys carried the league for years with their rivalries, and built up strong followings and helped the league tremendously over the years. So you like to see two guys who do it right, who play hard, and who people just they care for them because they care for the fans. I mean, Ovi was, when they won the cup at night was 18, I guess. I mean, that cup traveled all over, the area. There wasn't a bar between here and Alexandria that he didn't hit with it. And everybody took it to a Nationals game. And as a matter of fact, that year, Scherzer was in town. And Scherzer went to every time that they were at home and he wasn't playing baseball. He was at the at the Capital One Arena with his jersey on. His they said they gave him a Capitals jersey. So you want to give credit where credit is due, and so good up on OV and also on Sid for basically dragging the league into what they have right now, which is probably the best TV package they've ever had, and sold out arenas, and the sport has spread down into the South, and it's been a good year, a good decade or two, with those guys carrying the banner for the league.
Mhm.
And so good on them. Over the weekend, we saw some fascinating baseball. The Rays swept the Yankees to put everybody in a three-way tie for first place um, in that division. So it's going to be a slug. We knew it was going to be a slug. Now we definitely know it's going to be a slug.
Yeah.
Uh, if things continue to play on that. Um, the Washington Nationals took 2 out of 3 from Milwaukee, which was stunning.
Yeah.
And there's a race there as well in that East. The Dodgers just keep winning from the standpoint out west, and it's been a very interesting first month of the baseball season.
Yeah, and it's something where, like, at least for me,
Mhm.
and the team that I watch night in and night out,
Mhm.
it's it always takes time, right? Like baseball fans, it,
Mhm.
it beats anything I've ever seen. Like there are NFL fans, like obviously you're upset if your NFL team loses a game. Like
Yeah.
you don't like your team losing. But man, it feels like with baseball more than the NBA or the NFL or these sports that have like, these relatively not relatively, these shorter seasons. Like they're
Mhm.
okay losing some games on a night in and night out basis. Man, when my baseball team loses, it feels like baseball fans in general tend to overreact like the world
Oh
is
man.
in like it takes one loss. And I'm 120% guilty of it. Like through that stretch, I was like, we can't pitch, we can't hit, our bullpen sucks. Like, what did we go do? And then now we win 2 series in a row. You
Right.
know, we win 4 out of the last six. And it's like, oh, okay, like
Okay, I'm fine. Yeah.
the ship is steadying. We're 6-9. Like the Blue Jays just lost 2 out of 3 to the Twins. They're 6-9
Mhm.
as well. Everybody picked them to go win the AL this year. Um, so it's like almost like it steadies a little bit, and as time goes on, you tend to get a much clearer and more whole picture about who these baseball teams are. But it takes you really need probably till the end of May to get a good grip on who these baseball teams are going to be. And even when you get to the end of May, sometimes that still isn't your full picture. I think about
Mhm.
what was it the Astros a year ago or 2 years ago? Man, they started out just god awful and then came back like midway through the year and won the division. Like there are sometimes these teams still just pop. But I think some of the starts are interesting. I think the strong start by Miami, the strong start by Washington make that NL East a lot more interesting because I think you kind of knew what you were getting with the Mets, or at least you think you know what you're getting with the Mets, even though their play hasn't been fantastic of late. You watch early on, the Braves have had a lot of success on offense throughout their time, and their pitching's been pretty good. Talked a lot about the lack of depth, but their bats are swinging again like it's 2023
Mhm.
in Atlanta. And then you have Philadelphia as well, and you're going to get that Atlanta and Philadelphia set this weekend,
Mhm.
obviously culminating in Sunday Night Baseball at the Bank, I believe, this
Yeah,
time.
it's in
But
Philly.
yeah, but that NL East is if the Marlins and the Nationals continue to play baseball this way, that's turning into the best division in baseball.
It's fascinating because the Nationals are very young,
Mm,
and the interesting part of that is that they they basically um, have this is a team built from the Nationals organization, right, minor league organization, and the trades that they made with the Dodgers and San Diego that years ago when they offloaded Scherzer and Trey Turner to the Dodgers, and then
mhm,
they sent Juan Soto to to San Diego. And so all these kids that they brought in, plus their kids, are starting to play really well. And all we have to do is look at the top of the other division, Central Division. We see Pittsburgh and Cincinnati right there, on top of each other.
Yeah, and I also think it's telling. You go and look at it, like Atlanta has the best run differential in
Mm-hmm.
Major League Baseball right now. They are plus 46.
Mm-hmm.
They've 490 and they've only given up 44.
Mm-hmm.
The Dodgers are one game better than them at 11
Mm-hmm.
and 4, while the Braves are at 10 and 6, or one
Mm-hmm.
and a half games better, and their run differential is 35.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been some separation a little
Mm-hmm.
bit earlier in terms of the National League, and the
Mm-hmm.
National League overall looks a little bit better than the AL does here
Mm-hmm.
to start out. Because the AL, you've got two teams that are at 9 wins, you got another grouping there at 8, but
Mm-hmm.
it's between 6 and 9, like that. That's where your win totals are sitting, and run differentials. Like the Yankees are a half game out of first place at 8 and 7,
Mm-hmm.
and tied with all these other teams. Their run differential is 21. I
Right.
mean, Cleveland, who's 9 and 7, has a run differential of -9. Tampa Bay has one of -10. Yet
Right.
they're at 8 and 7. So I think that when you kind of pop the hood and look underneath it,
Mm-hmm.
there's stuff that's going to give teams some pause. There's stuff that's
Mm-hmm.
going to give teams some hope. But like you look at the Yankees being 8 and 7 with a plus 21. When you're a Yankees fan, you go, yeah, we may have lost to the Rays, but hey, we got plus 21. This is not
Mm-hmm.
only the best, it's far and away the best in the American League right now in terms of run differential. And then you also can turn it around. I can turn it around at least and go, all right, the Red Sox are 6 and 9. That's not squarely in last place, but that's one loss away from being squarely in last place.
Mm-hmm.
Run differential is 0. They've given up 62. They've scored 62.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so it's like, okay, like we may be down here, but the world's not ending. Like
Mm-hmm.
we're not the White Sox with a -30 run differential.
Right.
So yeah, there's some stuff under the hood, like Milwaukee's plus 16 in terms of their run differential, and they're 8 and 7. Chicago's 7 and 8, and they got a plus 10. So all of that stuff is going to eventually even out. Like you don't score more runs than the other team on a consistent
Mm-hmm.
basis. Like you don't have a plus run differential and have a
Mm-hmm.
losing record continuously. I think the only team that, when you look at it, you'd be really concerned with right now is the Mets, obviously, because they're
Mm-hmm.
-3, and they went out and they spent more money this
Mm-hmm.
offseason trying to get things to gel. Francisco Lindor just looks completely off right now. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think there's any other way to chalk that up. And when you look at the run differential, like that's not what you want to see after you go out and you spend the money and you have what is, I believe, to be the second highest payroll in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
This is not the result. You don't need to be one game off of last place. And then the Giants as well. I kind of believed in this baseball team. They're 6 and 10, and they have a -21 run differential. That's the worst in the National League.
Mm-hmm.
That's, to be quite honest, or not quite honest, there's only two teams with a worse run differential in baseball, and
Mm-hmm.
that's the Chicago White Sox at -30,
Mm-hmm.
and surprisingly, the Toronto Blue Jays at -25.
Right. It's wild. It's wild. There was one thing I saw this weekend that I've not seen, um, that I've never seen before, which is saying something because I've seen a lot of baseball. Um, the Nationals are taking on Milwaukee. Christian Yelich is up.
Mm-hmm.
The Nationals come into the ninth inning leading the game by a score of 3-0. First pitch that Breen, the relief pitcher for the Nationals, throws is hit for a home run. So we're now down to 3-1.
Mm-hmm.
Next guy comes up, strikes out. All right, so one down, nobody on. Yelich is the guy coming up. Yelich goes to gets a 2-2 count, and then Breen buries one. I mean, it's just like it hits the plate and goes careening off into almost to the dugout of the Nationals, and it was Yelich who turns to the umpire and goes, "Was that a strike?" Because he thought he swung at it, or at least might have broken his wrist or whatever. And the umpire said, yeah. Well, the catcher didn't hear him. So Yelich is running like a maniac to first base. The catcher's like looks at the umpire. The umpire goes, he struck out. So then the catcher looks up and goes, has no idea where the ball is. So he's running, the pitcher's running, everybody's running to get the baseball. Yelich ends up at second base on a strikeout.
Mm.
I have not seen that. That one is something I've seen guys. Obviously, I've seen guys go to first base on a strikeout. I've never seen it go to second base on a strikeout.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, it's happened, I'm sure, but I just that was the first time I've ever seen it.
Yeah, that's insane. I think it's interesting. The ABS challenges, and we're still learning new stuff. And
Right.
like Bubba Chandler adjusted his hat against the Cubs this weekend.
Right.
Got granted a challenge when he wasn't trying to challenge. Like he was
Right.
signaling. He's like, no. Like no, I was just fixing my hat.
Right. Leave me alone.
Yeah, the challenge had been initiated, and he actually ended up winning it. When he wasn't trying to challenge. I think that was interesting. You had another Pirates Cubs thing where one of the batters challenged, and then quickly like realizing the situation, like it was really felt like an instinctive type thing for him just to go pop and have the challenge, and it was granted. He's like, no, please, like I don't want to challenge it. Please stop. And it didn't matter. It was too late.
Cease it, please.
Yeah. So I think that's interesting. It's clear that there's still some like figuring out
bugs they have to figure out.
Yeah, like you can't have Bubba Chandler adjusting his hat and having an umpire like grant the challenge. Like if he actually is doing that, like not intending to do that, then we can't have umpires just like issuing challenges when they weren't called for. I think the element of time is still something that umpires are trying to figure out as well with this. I go back a series ago, back to midweek last week, and there was a pitch where it was in tight, and this is just a scenario that I know because of the team that I'm watching, but there was a pitch Gary Sanchez called strike 3. He kind of reacted to it. When he reacted to it, he turned to the dugout. After looking at the dugout, he tapped his helmet. He was granted that challenge. That's not something that's supposed to happen. That's something that umpires have to keep a tight leash on. So I think the element of timing with this and understanding when players are and aren't challenging and being a little more clear in the signaling is something that needs to happen and is going to happen throughout the course of this season.
It's a learning curve, but I do think it's a good thing to have. I do. I think it's helping. It's helping people enjoy baseball more.
Mm-hmm.
So anything we can do to make that happen, good with me. All right, Rory wins the Masters. There's NBA and NHL playoffs coming up real soon, and all kinds of fun stuff. NFL draft is not that far along, and then we got spring football games being scheduled. So, plenty to talk about, guys. Have a lovely Monday. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Take care.